Luftrausers is a game with an abundance of style, managing to do a lot with a limited color palette. It creates a beautiful sepia tone environment, though thanks to unlockable palette swaps this game can look all kinds of ways, that not only establishes a distinct look for the game, but also ensures that the game always reads clearly. The palette of the base game plays with the name Luftrausers, designed to harken back to the German Luftwaffe, to make the player imagine World War II, but the gameplay has very little to do with any of that. Luftrausers' gameplay, on the other hand, reminds me of the arcade, where games were session-based, graphics were simple, and you were judged by a score. Arcade is exactly the term for how this game controls from a flight system's perspective. Movement is fast and loose, and mistakes can largely be recovered from once you have a grip on the game's particular control scheme. This game is one that encourages you to be doing the sickest possible thing at all times, like stalling the plane, for both style and for substance. At the beginning of each bout of play, you are set loose on the open sea from out of a submarine, manning a craft that is blatantly overpowered compared to any other piece of machinery that you will face. You wreak havoc from the sky over an ocean which is nondescript except for the massive opposing naval presence and unending air fleet which seems to all be after you. The odds are, most of the planes you cast from the sub won't make it 3 minutes before they end up in the brine, but if you keep at it, eventually you'll take out that pesky blimp, which contains Winston Churchill? Even though this game has very little to do with actually flying a plane, the controls approximate throttle management. You do not simply move in the direction you press the stick as you would in, say, an R-Type, a Toho, or a Jamestown. Left and right turn your plane counter or clockwise, and pressing up thrusts you in the direction that your plane is pointed. This choice for control method introduces a challenge insofar as it limits the movement options available to the player. If you need to haul out of the way of a bullet, you need to press up to hustle, but in order to turn at a meaningful rate, you will need to let off the throttle and move the stick to one side. When things get hairy, you can also dive up into the clouds, where your plane isn't fit to fly for long, but offering you a moment of respite from the hail of bullets below. Or hell, you can dive into the water for the same effect, because why not? My plane is magically regenerating itself. That's right, the plane has regenerating health, which is represented by a circle encroaching from the outside of the screen. Which is brilliant. There's no way to miss how much health you have at any given moment so long as you don't have your eyes closed. Your health will come back, and quickly, but only when you're not shooting. This adds another layer of depth to crisis management. There are moments when shooting is not the right answer. When you're in the thick of a dogfight with swarms of enemies, you must consider, can I take these shots? Do I need to make space? Can I afford to make space? Am I just dead? No, I just gotta stop shooting. That being said, you'll still want to be shooting a lot in this game. There is no ammo limitation other than your health, and there is a wide variety of weapons to fire and enemies to shoot. In fact, there's technically 125 different planes you can fly in this game, though that's like saying that Borderlands actually has millions of different guns. Your plane is made up of 3 discrete parts, which you select between flights. The name and soundtrack associated with your plane changes accordingly with your composition decisions. One of my favorite combinations happens to be called Laser Knight. Every piece has an impact either on how the plane shoots, flies, or copes with damage via bullets or direct impact, which is surprisingly non-lethal. For guns, you have at your disposal a wide range of options, ranging from standard machine gun fire to lasers to spirit bombs to absolutely useless homing rockets. Your body could make you sustain more damage at the cost of speed, cause you to take no damage from collisions with enemy hulls, or turn you into a nuke that destroys everything on the screen. And lastly, your engines can turn on anti-gravity or sacrifice turning speed for top speed, or you could just be the Gungeon. For me, the endgame has been playing with all my slots set to random, and the variety of the constituent parts is what makes this endgame enjoyable. To unlock each new part, you have to complete challenges associated with the parts coming before it. This forces you to become familiar with what each part enables you to do. These challenges serve as a teaching mechanism, giving the player a guiding hand, teaching them what each part is about, so that when they do get something on random, they know what that part is. Many of these goals are tied into the game's score system, because despite me not talking about it for this long, Luftrausers is at its core a score-based game. You have a score multiplier that requires maintenance with additional destruction of enemy crafts, which caps at 20. Each time you surpass your high score, you'll be notified, but as with many score-based games for me, it's not about the score. There's just something satisfying about getting deep into a run, regardless of whether I maintain the score multiplier correctly or not. Much of this satisfaction with a solid run comes from my perception of the game being very fair, meaning that I rarely feel as though I died for reasons which I could not affect or have foreseen. Every enemy in the game is predictable within reason. Hitboxes are very easy to understand. You just have to avoid the things with the outlines. The only issue can be the screen size. Sometimes a wall of bullet just appears from the side of the screen and you gotta deal with that. At the same time, if I could see the bullets coming from much further away than I already do, I suspect the game might become too easy. It's a delicate balance, but I feel like this game does an excellent job of finding a happy medium. Each threat on its own is predictable and manageable, even the enemy aces. But managing everything at once will lead you to make mistakes. There is an additional difficulty that is called SFMT. It stands for nothing, and it is an additional difficulty that is unlocked through play on normal. It is terror, death, and suffering. From the moment you pop out of the safety of your submarine, the game blasts an air horn in your ear to distract you from the fact that it's about to punch you in the gut. This is a difficulty so absurd that there is an achievement for surviving past the sound of the air horn at the beginning. SFMT mode is not fair, and fairness is where a lot of the fun of Luftrausers comes from. Your run begins with the game throwing you into the deep end. Enemies that would normally show up only after you reach a certain score threshold now greet you. Enemies fire more often and fire in new ways. The increased chaos is much harder to manage in a way that makes this game less fun. So, SFMT isn't as fun as normal, but it doesn't have to be because there's a great deal of novelty in seeing what this game could have been if the devs just hated you. It has its own set of missions to try and complete on the new difficulty, and getting a particularly high score gives you access to one of the most bizarre and unique secrets I've seen in a game. Lastly, normally, I don't dwell on the music for a game, because anyone can hear the music and decide for themselves if they love it, but Luftrausers is doing something special. There's a number of tracks in the game, but the battle theme, the music that plays once the plane has launched, is every bit as customizable as the plane. No matter what, the track is going to follow the same flow and transition between the sections at the same time, but each of the track's 3 layers is tied to a different section of the plane, and each component for that slot has its own audio that plays. The marching beat can come out and a wobble can go in, the guitar can come out and be replaced by air horns, the kick can come out for the sounds of heavy industry. The music attempts to fit the theme of the craft you have constructed. But no matter what, you get that phenomenal heroic break to tie all these tonally different pieces together and remind you that you are an ace. I recommend this game. It is $10 on Steam, and it's already an old game, so it will go on sale if $10 is a little bit out of your price range. This is a game with tight controls, consistently great gameplay, and so much style it's bursting at the seams.